Hello everyone, welcome to Podmas Day 13. If you were here yesterday, I was talking about the art of sliding into DMs and trying to work with brands to be on PR lists or to ask for free or complimentary product for review. And today we are going to be tackling the subject of different conferences. So I alluded to 3 different conferences that I've been to. I have been to VidCon, which is in LA. I have been to Vid Summit, which is also in LA. And I've been to GenBeauty, and I have been to GenBeauty in San Francisco, LA, and New York. So I have done the trifecta of GenBeauties of all the places that they have offered them. And I'm going to give you just a little bit of insight into what I found from going to these conferences. So the first one, VidCon, it was my very first time going, and honestly, I'd heard a lot of things. It was really big. I heard a lot of the stuff with TanaCon about how VidCon has gotten too huge, and it's not what it used to be. It's only about money, and I think we all know how TanaCon turned out, but that's not the point of this podcast today. So VidCon itself. I actually wasn't even planning on going to VidCon, and it turned out that because of a connection that I have through networking and speaking with people and brands, I was offered a ticket to go to VidCon as long as I could pay for my plane ticket down there. And the truth is I had enough airline miles that I could go down and back for free. I only had to pay like $7 a ticket in taxes, which is great. So that didn't cost me anything really to go down there except for the hotel and my food and incidentals and all that stuff. But what I will say about VidCon, I had an amazing time. It was really well organized. I don't know how many years it's been now, but they did have 2 buildings. One was more for, let's say, the fans. Another was for fans / but like people who had paid for a higher level of tickets. So there were also some educational classes. And then there was also one other tier in the echelon, and that was for like business industry creator people. And that ticket was like 3 times as expensive. Okay, so we've got 3 different levels of tickets. And I would say that VidCon is most well suited for people who want to try and catch a glimpse of a whole bunch of people that they've seen on YouTube, because they're going to bring in a whole bunch of people and have panels and different, meetups and all that stuff, but it's huge, right? So I will say at the end of VidCon, I was exhausted. I ended up going to see my friend Eugene, who was on a podcast earlier this Podmas, and he was at a hotel that was a little bit farther away. And when I went to go visit him, I found out later that that is the hotel where they put up a lot of the bigger stars and people, because it's a little farther away from the fans and all of the melee that happens. And so I actually ended up seeing that and thinking that was one of the best parts of the whole thing, because sometime I'll have to tell you about the time that we crashed a party at VidCon in the hotel and kind of snuck into that, and how I had to get a wristband to even be let into the hotel. It was a whole big thing. But while we were there, we also found some creator lounges from some of these MCNs that had booths and sections there. And so you could go and, you could have lunch or just kind of like relax in a space that was kind of away from the main expo hall and everything. And that ended up being way more my style than going. I think I was going to attempt one time to go to one of those big panel events, because a whole bunch of people that I knew were going to be on it, like iJustine and Laura DIY and all these people. And I took one look at the crowd walking over there, and it was like a farther building. I was just, what, I'm not into this. I'm not going to do it. But I would say that it is probably one of the cheapest, easiest tickets to get your hands on to try and see some bigger YouTubers. But I would say most of the people who were there in the building that I was in, they were trying to go to some of the classes and they were trying to learn more. There were some, just other things going on. So I would say that is kind of VidCon in a nutshell. It's really kind of more about the fans and connecting them to some of the creators than anything else. But I still had an amazing time, and I would definitely go back again if I had the opportunity. The next one I want to talk about is Vid Summit. Vid Summit is probably, it's way expensive when it comes to terms of VidCon. And one of the things that really separates it, it's not as much of a place where you go as a fan. It's a place where you go when you're a creator and you want to learn from other creators. And it's not as much about sales and tactics. I mean, it is brass tacks. This is what you do. This is how you leverage something. This is what I know, and I'm giving it to you. So I would say that if you can get yourself down to Vid Summit, that ticket, even though it's insanely expensive, it's way more expensive, and I waffled back and forth for a while. Am I going to go to this? Am I not? I am so thankful that I ended up going, and I learned such valuable advice. I was having lunch randomly. It's a much smaller conference, so you just run into people, and it's not like huge swarms around them. I mean, there still are a lot of people wanting to talk to these people, but we're just outside, and there's Peter McKinnon over there, and there's Nick Nimmin, and there's Shonduras, and there's Gary Vee, and it's amazing. And I ended up sitting at lunch between Steve Dotto of Dotto Tech and Justin Brown from Primal Video, and it was amazing. And I've written about it in my blog post where I talked about that was the lunch that helped me decide that they're telling me I need to create the iMovie Made Easy course that I've been thinking about putting out. And so it's one of those places where I would go where you are going to be inspired as a creator, learning from other creators, learning how to take what you have and turn it into some kind of business. And so I really appreciate Vid Summit for that. So I would suggest that you go. I would start saving your money because that ticket is way more expensive, but I would say that the payoff is worth it. The real magic of Vid Summit is all of those hallway conversations, talking with other creators, for real. And the last conference I want to talk about is GenBeauty. There are 3 different locations. I will say that I've gone to New York and LA, which both tend to be larger than the San Francisco GenBeauty. The reason you go to GenBeauty, if you're a beauty person, is this is the opportunity to not only meet other beauty creators or in that space, but this is where you actually go to connect more one-on-one with the brands. Ipsy has done a great job with creating this event and bringing in some of these smaller brands and larger brands, and they bring them all together, and you have the opportunity to meet them. And I am part of the Ipsy OS community, and I would highly suggest if you are a beauty kind of fashion lifestyle person, maybe signing up for that, because there is a great Facebook group. They do have discounted tickets for it, and they do have a lottery sometimes for when those conferences are going on to be entered into what they call Creator Day. And Creator Day is where they actually bring in additional brands and educational type content for the people that day. And there's also, in some cities, they'll do a cocktail party, and then there's like a bag of goodies. In New York, they skipped the cocktail party, and it was the day of learning, and then a bag of goodies at the day of learning. It is so great to be around all the people who are kind of crazy, stupid, excited about the same things you are. You can kind of talk shop, and that's where you get to kind of meet some of those friends that you look forward to meeting, every 3-4 months or some when the event is being put on. So I would say that one is more for meeting with the brands. I did meet some brands while I was at VidCon. They were all in the big expo hall, but I just felt that because there were so many people running around, all trying to get their freebies, and talking to the booths, it was a lot harder to make some of those connections than it was at GenBeauty. And it is a lot of the same stuff. It's a little bit easier. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I would highly suggest, especially because GenBeauty, you leave with something very, very tangible. You always leave with like a goodie bag of makeup and items that are always worth, pretty much what you paid for it. It's just how expensive is it for you to get to where the location is and, pay for the hotel and all of that stuff. I personally still think it's worth it to go to them, especially if I am lucky enough to be invited to a Creator Day. And I know they don't have Creator Day sometimes in the San Francisco GenBeauty, but they did in New York and in LA. So if you're part of Ipsy OS and lucky enough to be entered into the Creator Day kind of lottery or however they choose, because they don't really tell us, I would definitely do whatever you can to get to those, because it's a great opportunity to learn some of that stuff and meet up with the brands a little bit more. Also, if you're going to GenBeauty, I would highly suggest one of the group members. Her name is Julia Salvia, and she always puts on a dinner where she's connecting, influencers who, you're all hungry after a day of networking and being at this convention and walking around, and she brings in some brands, and it's an opportunity to just sit, have a meal together, and just relax and hear each other's stories, and it's so much fun. So I would highly suggest, as far as I know, she's done it at all the GenBeauties for like the past 4 or 5 rounds of it, so I would definitely highly suggest going to that. There was also a goodie bag at that dinner. It's not ever guaranteed, but it was just awesome to go, and she's just the sweetest and kindest. So that is my take on 3 different conferences. I do want to say that I do think it's highly, highly worth your time to do these types of things. I know they also have like social media marketing world. We just had Seattle YouTube Day. It's just great to be around people who like the same things you do and are doing the same things that you are doing and are having the same struggles that you are having. So I would highly, highly suggest, even for the introverted people out there like myself, that you get yourself to some of these events and you really take the time to just I know it's a lot, and I always go back to the room and I'm just emotionally drained, and sometimes I just have to take a break, but it's so worth it to go to these conferences. I would highly, highly suggest going to one that is near you, or, you know, if there isn't one near you, creating one near you. And yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that. I hope you guys are enjoying Podmas. If you are, I would really, really appreciate it. Drop a comment, let me know, leave a review, hopefully a great review, and that would help me out a lot, because I kind of am getting into the groove, I think, with podcasting, and I think I'd like to continue this into next year. So that's all for today. I will talk to you all tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. That's going to wrap it up for today's Podmas episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you've enjoyed our time together, I would love it if you gave a 5-star review on whatever listening platform you are tuning in from. I do not take our time together for granted. I know you could be anywhere and listening to anyone, and you chose to spend your time with me, and I really appreciate that. I will see you in a Podmas episode very soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.